The Dow Transport's down nearly 9% over the past month, and there are several events that could put pressure on this broader group from here. There are potential strikes, tariffs, and the Lunar New Year all on deck coming up next month. But my next guest, bullish on the sector and sees several catalysts from here. For more on the catalyst and the concerns for transports in 2025, joining me is Don Broughton, managing partner at Broughton Capital. Don, good to see you.
Good to see you, Frank. How are you doing?
All right. So, Don, I know you keep your ear to the streets at all time. I was just talking to a big logistics and supply chain company. They said they're seeing a pull forward of freight, especially on the West Coast, where imports for containers were up 19% year over year in November. A lot of that's due to a potential strike and also tariffs. Containers are generally consumer goods, sneakers, laptops, et cetera. Is that all a pull forward of tariffs, or do you think something else might be behind that surge? Again, 19% at the West Coast ports in November.
Well, that certainly makes a nice narrative. But the truth of the matter is we saw this pull forward starting back in June and July, when it was uncertain as to whether or not who was actually going to be the Republican and Democratic candidates, quite frankly, as much less who was going to be the winner. And so I don't think it's that much as we'd like to make it. Far too often the truth is not as linear as our human brains would like it to be. We've seen this surge. In fact, if you look at the third quarter volumes we saw coming in, August, September, October volumes we saw coming into the ports, we saw as much as we saw at the previous peak back in 2022, where we're within 50,000 containers up. So I think that's more us looking for an answer where it doesn't exist.
All right, fair enough. You know, one way we look for answers when it comes to transports, the Dow Transports theory that you can read the moves in the Dow Transports to give you a read on the economy. Is that the case right now? We just mentioned transport's almost flat year to date.
Well, you know, it's because the transports themselves are somewhat confused. You got to break the transports in order to get the real predictive value. You got to break the transports into people who move. Transports that move goods and transports that move people. Transports that move people don't predict anything. And it's really not the transports companies themselves that are somehow omniscient or prescient. What really tells the future is the goods that they're moving. And so if you move more goods, these are asset intensive companies, you see higher asset utilization, and so you see higher margin, which gets you higher earnings, which gets you higher stock price. So it's the goods, it's the underlying goods flow that predicts what's going on in the economy, not the stocks that are somehow omniscient or prescient.
So then, Don, read these tea leaves for me. I'm looking at the chart of FedEx. Last week, they had the spinoff of their freight business, an LTL trucking business. Stock popped big. Then the next day, I believe it actually closed lower. I'm looking since that announcement, down 1.5%. Also, the rest of the companies in that LTL sector, names like an XPO, an Old Dominion, Asaya, all of them are trading lower. They move goods. The freight spinoff is supposed to be good for the overall industry. What's going on?
No, first of all, they think the freight spinoff is a good idea, but then they also announced that it's going to take them 18 months to spin it off. So then everybody's excitement grew cold, because nobody on Wall Street likes to wait 18 months for anything, first of all. And second of all, if you're going to spout off what the price of XPO is going to be, or Old Dominion or any of this, tell me what those stocks were a year ago, 2 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago, XPO was a $45 stock, and now it's, $155 stock. So we've come a long way. If you look at the volumes of inbound containers, if you look at the volumes of Asia Pacific, in particular air freight, which tells us that the tech boom is indeed intact, then you get much more bullish about the overall economy.